Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly discussion series that's hosted by the Chaldean Cultural Center in collaboration with U of M Detroit Center, Unique Voices in Films, and CMN TV. I'm your host, am Nemu, and our guest today is Daniel Rosenstein. Hello, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Liam, for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
So, Daniel is a life coach, energy healer, and founder of Ultimate Energy Coach, where he specializes in empowering individuals to overcome life's challenges, find inner peace, and achieve self mastery. Through a unique blend of energy healing modalities like Reiki, EFT, and emotion code, Daniel helps his clients release deep rooted traumas, reduce anxiety, and align with their true purpose. Now, we're going to discuss how we ended up meeting, okay? So, what happened? Yeah, because this is part of why you're on this show today. So what happened is, so I was, as you know, I went to Lynn V. Andrews 4-year mysticism school, graduated in 2016, a long time ago. She has unfortunately passed away about a year and a half ago. And so I was invited through her, through an acquaintance, to participate in a summit that you're having. Your summit is called From Silence to Self Mastery, which is coming up in a couple of weeks or less. And when we met, when I was talking and when you were interviewing me, I learned that your mother was born in Baghdad. She's Jewish, and that she had to leave in 1948. And then this opened up a whole entire information and a box of wealth of information of how we have similar backgrounds, and you were telling me what you'd learn about the Chaldeans. And so I invited you because I found it very interesting what you knew historically about the Chaldeans, but I also wanted to learn about your background. But before we dive into all of that, so if you can tell us how your Jewish heritage and your mother's background, having been born in Baghdad, how has that influenced your personal journey and your work as a life coach?
Yeah, that's a really wonderful question, and it's really interesting because I'm Jewish. My family's Jewish. My mom, and her family originally from the Middle East. She was born in Iraq. They moved to Israel. Obviously, lives in the United States. My dad and his family, they're we call Ashkenazi Jews. They're American, but they're originally from like Polish Russia area. And when I grew up in America, in New York, in a Jewish uh, background, a Jewish community. But most of the people there, their heritage was, European, Polish, Russian. I look more like my mom, even though like people on my dad's side, they have like pale skin, but my mom's side, they have like darkish Arab skin. So a lot of people, when they saw me, because I have darkish skin, people ask me like, "Are you Jewish? Like you look more Arab than you do Jewish. Like what's going on here?" And it always made me feel a bit uncomfortable because you're born the way you look, the way you are, and it always felt like an outsider, even in the Jewish community, because the particular Jewish community I grew up with, there are people from like different countries, even though they were Jewish, and we have that in common. It's just like it's a different perspective. Like I don't know if you know the difference between an Ashkenazi Jew and a Sephardic Jew. There's like different traditions within the Jewish religion. Like Jews that their heritage is from the Middle East, they're considered Sephardic Jews. It's like it's a name, like a label they give. So my mom's Sephardic, and my dad is Ashkenazi. The Ashkenazi are mostly Jews from Europe, from most of the European countries. So I grew up as an Ashkenazi Jew because that's my dad was head of the household, and that's the way like I grew up. But I look, have a Middle Eastern look, and some people, including Jewish people, like just almost looked at me like an outsider, and made me like feel like I'm not really part of them in some ways, and it was just really interesting. And it definitely shaped my viewpoint about life, the trajectory, my future, because it's like it started making me question what is the meaning of life, like what is the meaning of religion, what is the purpose of my life, what is my vision, And in some ways, I felt I grew up in a very strong religious family, and I was always told that my parents were very strict, whatever. I was always told what to do all the time. Like I was never allowed to really have my voice heard. So it's like whatever my dad told me to do is like you can do this, this, and this, and that's it. And it was such done in such a strong way. It was I was always a sensitive child. So growing up in that type of household where it was very strict, that you're not allowed to question anything, you have to follow the rules, you have to do what you're told by your parents. And I understand like it's parents should definitely have guidelines for the children. But I grew up in such a strict household, it was almost like suffocating me in a way that I wasn't allowed to express myself. Like I wanted to be more creative, but I was told I have to be more left brain. So I grew up, trained to be a very logical minded person, and I had to choose like a logical minded career. I started off like in computer science doing programming, but I hated it because that wasn't the real me. So I've been on this path now for over 30 years trying to find out who is the real me. And I always liked studying different cultures, different religions, different histories. At one point, I saw that movie Indiana Jones. I'm sure a lot of people have seen that movie or heard of it. It's a movie about this like guy. He goes like on these tours, like journeys around the world, looking for these like buried treasures. And I thought like that could be my reality. So I actually had like a quick internship for a few weeks at an archaeological museum, and we did do a dig. I currently live in Florida. We did do a dig in Miami in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the heat, and like it was just too much for me. I was just like digging through sand all day, hoping to find that buried treasure of that. Maybe like a dinosaur or an ancient scroll from like an ancient mystic or something, and
Mhm.
found nothing like that. And it wasn't what like I imagined, like I saw in the movies, and it was a hard reality shock to me. It's like growing up, like as a child watching a lot of movies, you're shaped in a certain viewpoint. Like you say, oh, like if Indiana Jones can find like the Temple of Lost Ark, why couldn't I find it?
Well, you helped me find a couple of articles that I found very fascinating because in the midst of our conversation, we started off about your mother being born in Baghdad, Iraq, where I was born, and that she had to leave in 1948, and just the similar probably trauma that she experienced more closely to myself, given that we had to leave our birth countries. And then you started mentioning that you had read about the Chaldeans and the Kabbalah, and you sent me several articles that relate to that. What are some of the things that you learned that and what the teachings or principles that resonated with you when you were reading about them? I really like you to share this with our audience, who a lot of them are looking into their roots and trying, to understand about the Chaldeans. Um, w- I'll mention also other things that we found in common, but if you can just share what you've read about the Chaldeans, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, I've been on this journey of finding myself, and I like to learn about different religions, different cultures, different traditions, and different mystical views, different spiritual paths. I don't like to believe in limitations, even though, as you mentioned, I am Jewish, but I like to study things outside of like the Jewish spiritual religion. So I started joining different Western mystery schools, which they teach New Age spiritual traditions, which is different than like traditional religions, than traditional Judaism or traditional Christianity. It's more of a fusion of multicultural religions and multicultural spiritual paths. They kind of combine a lot of these paths. And through joining multiple mystery schools, a lot of times they had very brief mentions about the ancient Chaldeans and that they were very wise magicians and numerologists and astrologers. And when I started studying the Kabbalah, which again, there's different forms of Kabbalah. There's like the Jewish Kabbalah and then the New Age Kabbalah. And over the years, it's kind of evolved. A lot of people have, created their own versions of the Kabbalah. There's like a Christian Kabbalah now. There's the other day I was walking in Barnes and Nobles and I saw a book called The Gay Kabbalah. So it's like people really definitely created their own versions and interpretations of the Kabbalah. So it was interesting to me because a lot of teaching the Kabbalah, they teach about, I'm talking about the New Age version of Kabbalah, not the Jewish Kabbalah. New Age Kabbalah, they mention things about astrology, numerology, and a lot of that's also in the Chaldean spiritual traditions as well. And it's also interesting that Abraham, the prophet Abraham in the Bible, which is, a Jewish Bible, he, grew up in the Iraq Babylonian area, which was also the Chaldeans there. So there's definitely a mixture of history with the Chaldeans and the Jews living in Babylonia. Also, there was in the Bible, there's a prophet named Daniel that he also lived in Babylonia, and he was a famous Jewish prophet. And there were some references to the Chaldeans. So there was definitely, being that the fact that the two societies live side by side, obviously they've shared some information, shared knowledge with each other to a certain extent. Obviously I wasn't living during the time of the prophet Abraham in the Bible, so I don't know, which Chaldeans he spoke with. I'm sure he did.
Yeah,
because I'm sure
I
he
can understand that part.
I'm sure he may have had a Chaldean neighbor, but it's very interesting. And it's, things have evolved over the years. Like the Jewish religion today is not the same Jewish religion as in the Babylonian times. But I tell you this, there's even Jewish people today, like Orthodox Jews, they still reference texts written by rabbis from the Babylonian times that was written in Aramaic. So right. Religious Orthodox Jews still read and believe in the Talmud, which is the Talmud is a book written by rabbis about 2,000 years ago that were living in Babylonia. And the Talmud is like an explanation. Different rabbis have different discussions of their interpretations of the Old Testament Bible. And again, that was written in ancient Babylonian. And obviously, different cultures influence each other. And the same thing with like the Greeks and Jews. They also have some commonalities. And I also mentioned to you, Wamu, the fact that like a big part of the Kabbalah, there's a numerology aspect. And I know numerology also plays a big role in the Chaldean spiritual knowledge. And the fact that they have like that structure, even it's like, I may have like kind of referenced this before. There's a lot of, when you start studying comparative religion, comparative spiritual paths, like you study the Chaldean, ancient Jewish religion, ancient like Christianity, the ancient Greeks, the Romans, ancient Egyptians, Chinese, the Hindus, you see a lot of commonalities. And I think it's, in my opinion, it's not by accident. I believe that all these cultures and religions come from the same source. If you want to call it God, the gods, the universe, the source, all that is, people have different words for these things, but I think they all come from the same roots. And I think like the more you research that and look into it, you'll see that's like a fact. And I'll tell you this, because I think naturally people speak and think differently. Like if I asked you to create a beautiful painting, you'll probably create whatever painting you think, in your mind's eye and your own interpretation is nice. But I asked the 10 other people to do the same thing, I guarantee you they'll probably create totally different paintings. But yet all these like major religions, major spiritual paths, they have so many things in common. It seems to me like almost impossible that this information that was given to them didn't come from the same source. Because there's certain things like the Tree of Life, it's a very structured system. The Tree of Life is a very structured system, is used in so many different spiritual traditions, including Native Americans, Jews, Christians, Romans, the Celtics, ancient Egyptians. And so you take a step back and you say, like, what is going on here? Like, how come everybody's using like the same foundation, like using this Tree of Life? So it's very interesting. So I personally believe that it came from all the same source. And we also mentioned before, like in a previous conversation, I believe the whole world, the whole universe is energy. Like we talked this from like a scientific perspective or mystical perspective, like everything is energy. But in different cultures, different traditions, they call these energies different things. Like in maybe ancient Babylonia, whether you're Chaldean or Jewish, whatever, they call that magic. So they call these people magicians. Like the Native Americans, they call this shamanism. In yoga, like in India, like in the Hindu tradition, they call this Kundalini, the Kundalini energy. And like in China, they call this Qi. Qi means energy. So they use different words to mean the same thing. So a lot of some people, there's different types of people. The people that study like one thing, they'll study like one culture, one.
Okay. Seems like I lost his internet for a second, so just wait until he hops back on.
Yeah, sorry
Hello.
about that. I lost.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. Let me just remove this right here. Can you turn off the other one? Can you? Oh, here, I got it. I got it. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. I like what you're saying because yeah, there is a lot of the source is the similar point. And but sometimes what happens are people that think a different way or think that things should be a certain way, they take that and kind of twist it. We were talking about how Chaldeans for being, having this interaction with energy and understanding how the universe works, which was really an amazing thing. This is very right now, this is what scientists study, and even from the very beginnings, and they were oftentimes in the past especially demonized or misunderstood about because of that. And then you were sharing that this is the same thing with Jews. They were also demonized for certain things. And it's just interesting that rather than learning from the ancients, that we tend to demonize them in order that for in order to have people just believe in one certain way.
Right, exactly. It's interesting how people think differently. And it's amazing to me that people call themselves spiritual or religious, that they put down other religions or cultures because they're different. Like, you have a different label. Like, use the word energy healing or shamanism or kundalini or magic. To me, it's really almost the same thing. You're just applying different words to mean the same thing. So to put somebody down, another group of people down because they don't belong to the same religion as you. They don't go into the same place of worship as you. They don't worship. It's just, to me, that's anti-religious, anti-spiritual. Because in my interpretation, everybody has their own interpretation. But to me, being spiritual, being religious means having more awareness, having more consciousness, and having more respect. Because we believe that we all come from God or source, all that is. We're all children of God. We all come from the same source that is. And it's just, to me, like logical to respect all people of all cultures, all religions and stuff.
Well,
and I wish more people like that today, because even you see what's going on today in the Middle East now, you have like these wars that are breaking out because, again, these people that have these very like extreme ideologies on both sides, that they don't like a certain group of people because of their religion, their culture, their politics, whatever. And it's just truly, it's a shame because I so much countries and stuff, they spend their money, their resources, their energies on killing people when we could be helping people. There's so many people that are starving, that are homeless, and stuff like that we can use those resources towards.
and we're also, when you get to know another cultural community or in their history, when you demonize them, what happens is you miss the opportunity to learn from their wonderful ancient ways. I mean, they were philosophers, they were astrologers, they did amazing thing. And then when we put certain labels on people, or especially the ancients who have so much to offer, but when we do that, the Jewish people, they were just a great, incredible asset to Iraq. And a lot of people feel like it was such a loss to lose that community from that region. Nobody really gained anything. And if anybody from most of the regions that I have been to, I've traveled quite a bit, and of course, being from Iraq, I'm aware of that area. But I think those are the areas that need to work on a lot of healing in order to get to the next story, and that's why this. When you reached out about this summit from silence to self mastery, and I myself as a writer, as right now speaking, using media to communicate, this was a very traumatic thing to come from an area where it was very oppressive and not encouraged to speak, especially it was during Saddam's time. And so I think this summit is so important, not just, of course, for Middle Easterners, but especially from people from certain regions that have experienced that trauma. But what inspired you to create this summit, and what are your hopes for the attendees? And if you could
So
tell
what?
us the dates, please, before I forget. I don't want to forget this point because I know it's coming up in a couple of weeks. If you can tell us the details about it and how people can connect.
Sure. So the summit is from November 14th to November 20th. It's a 7-day event. And today's November 5th already. So it's right around the corner. Each day we're going to promote 4 different speakers. We have 28 speakers altogether. You can it's registered for free to listen to all the speaker interviews. At the website is from silence to selfmastery.com. And what I want all the speakers to get is to hear all these inspiring stories, such as from Wiam, to have it's just like really amazing. There's so many people. I think especially today, they're very lost, they're very confused, they're very angry, they're very frustrated, and they don't know where to go, where to turn to. So at the least, hearing these inspiring stories about how people were able to come out of silence to self-mastery, finding their voice and finding their passion. I created the summit because that's the story of my life. My whole life, I've been finding, searching for my own life purpose, searching for my own voice, and how to, for so many years, I didn't feel like it was safe to be seen. And, it wasn't until like many, many years later that I feel safe to be seen, to put myself out there, to share all the knowledge and wisdom that I have with people. And I wanted to put a summit together so it's not just me talking, it's everybody else talking, because I understand everybody's different. They come from different backgrounds, different perspectives. And I think that everybody, as we talked about before, is a teacher. And when you hear different perspectives about how people came into their own version of self-mastery, it's extremely inspiring. And so there's a little bit of something for everybody in the summit, which is really exciting. And a lot of the speakers, they share a lot of wisdom, a lot of advice to people who may feel they're struggling. They don't know their life purpose. They want to find their voice. They want to learn about what resources are available out there. It's really incredible. I think like half like the battle of life is just knowing that there's so much support and resources out there. You're not alone. For many issues, you're not screwed. There's definitely hope. There's opportunity. And when you hear these different stories of these people that felt like they had no hope in their life, there was no opportunities. And some people went through a tremendous amount of trauma or horrific stories. You're like, it's unfathomable what some people went through. But for them to turn this, their lives around and to come into their own self-mastery, it's amazing. And what's even more amazing, that they're sharing the wisdom with other people too now. A lot of these people, they're coaches, they're healers, entrepreneurs, speakers, sharing the wisdom and knowledge with others. And there really is a lot of wisdom and knowledge. You're saying, there's a lot of wisdom and knowledge from the Chaldeans, from all the cultures, and the coaches too. So if you're willing to be open to this invitation, as I said, the summit is free. We promote 4 speakers each day starting November 14th. The website again is from silence to selfmastery.com. If you miss the speakers, because you have 24 hours to watch the videos, we have a VIP package for only nominal fee of $37. You get lifetime access to all the speaker videos, transcripts, audios, and some other workbooks as well. This is to cover like the cost of like the hosting of the website, just in case some people are busy. But I cried sometimes listening to some of the speaker stories because it was just so amazing. And I don't like to cry. I'm a man. I don't. Men don't cry. It's totally ridiculous. But it was really amazing. I was touched. And
It's
because I,
definitely an act of love. I know that because the kind of work, because I've been watching you coordinate everything as you're working and reaching out and, promoting it and connecting with everybody. So the amount of work that you're putting into this, and for what you're saying, it's free, and then the nominal fee just to cover whatever it's covering, it's really an act of love. And I think that when you overcome certain traumas, and even if you're in a healing process, you just have this thing in you that you have to share, that you have to help others. I think it's just sometimes, even when you don't want to, you just feel like you can't, given what the blessings that you received, you're kind of passing them along.
exactly, so I've been on this journey for so many years, going to different workshops, different joining other people's programs, and just a few years ago, people were telling me, like, when I talk to people in these workshops that I've attended, people like, you've been doing this for how many years? Like 1 year, 2 years? People like, that's crazy. Like, you learn so much. You have to put yourself out there. And it's taken me this many years to really put myself out there. And it is an act of love. I mean, I spent over 500 hours personally putting together the summit, reaching out to speakers, looking for speakers, managing this whole thing, putting the schedules together, doing the interviews, video editing, the website, all these things. So I could have made more money working at McDonald's, literally. And so I'm not doing this to make, to be rich by any means. I really care about sharing this because I want to help people. Like, I was lost and confused when I was younger. I'm sure a lot of people did. Like, you said, like, you grew up in a tough place in Baghdad, Iraq, with the Saddam Hussein regime. But even people here in America, there are still a lot of people lost and confused. If you just watch the media, you see, what goes on in people's minds and the acts that people do. But
Right.
they need these things more than ever. They need to hear inspirational stories of hope, and there's help, there's support, there's resources out there, so many different coaches. And think to see, to watch so many different perspectives again and again, it reinforces that message.
Yeah.
I'll Yes.
Yeah, so, well, I was going to ask, particularly, given our audience, there's a lot of Chaldean viewers, Middle Eastern viewers. I know that probably whatever I'm going to ask you would be an advice for everybody, but what advice would you give people, especially those from Middle Eastern backgrounds, who are seeking to overcome personal challenges and achieve their own self-mastery?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, like, when you watch, like, these interviews on the summit, people really go into that, and you hear different perspectives. I mean, I have my own perspective of how to get over these challenges. It's just like, our soul, going back to, like, this spiritual background. I believe that everybody has a soul, and their soul has unlimited potential. But in our conscious bodies, we think, like, oh, this is it. Like, you were born poor, you didn't have, like, the best family, you didn't have the best upbringing, you didn't, have all the liberties that some other rich people have, or people that, from a different religion or a different country may have had. There's so much opportunity to turn things around and live an amazing life. And trust me, I mean, I didn't really share that much about my background, but I've been through hell and back many times. So if I'm able to turn around into my own version of self mastery, and to me, self mastery is just becoming a better version of you. And it's an ongoing process. Not like you push a button and then it's like all your problems go away. It's an ongoing, it's a process. But when you start entering that process and you start seeing that you can make really powerful shifts. I mean, as a coach and energy healer, I do this to other people all the time. And people are amazed about, like, the healings I give to other people, in so many different ways to help people build self-confidence. I can help people make these shifts virtually instantaneously. And it's really amazing, helping people get all over their past, their traumas, so they live more of a happy, joyous lives.
Yeah, that is very beautiful. I commend you for the work that you do. I'm so looking forward to listening. First of all, I'm so honored that I'm part of this summit. But I'm so looking forward to listening to all the other speakers. I'm sure there's like a wealth of information to share. So with only like a minute left, what are some last words that you want to leave us with?
Yeah, so, like, what, a lot of the people here are, like, Chaldean. I mean, I definitely highly recommend that you look into, like, these things I was mentioning about I'm like, if that's all you want to study is the Chaldean culture and heritage, that's fine. But if you want to, invite you to study these other things, as I mentioned, you'll see that we have so many things in common. And that's how I think we bring more peace and love to the world. And as I said before, everything is energy. And I think anything is possible if we learn to remove the blocks and limitations. And it's just doing things one step at a time to removing those blocks and limitations to live a happier lives. And I can guarantee if it happened to me, anybody can do it. If I can put myself out there, it's safe for me to be seen. It's safe for you to be seen, because if you saw what I had to go through in life, I can guarantee you, I wouldn't want to wish it on my worst enemies.
Yeah, and you know what? I really love what you just said, because sometimes we do get stuck in our little cliques. Like we'll have, whether we're Chaldean or whether we're, Palestinian or whether we're Jewish or whether we're this or that. We end up kind of, it's great to know our roots and our heritage, but if we go out there and also experience other cultures and put ourselves out there, we would be surprised of what we would learn from the other groups and what we could also teach them. It's a two-way street, right?
Exactly, and I think that's really wonderful. That's the way I see things, and I don't try to force my beliefs on anybody else. People are welcome to believe whatever they want, but if we really truly believe in God, or gods, or the source, or whatever, the universe, whatever name you call it, we all come from that, and then that's how we can really live the best life and live the best society possible. So I'm very excited about the summit. It's so much value to everybody. I said it's free. There's no catches or anything. It's not like,
And I'll put a link to your
like
I'll put a link to your site. And yeah, I really look forward to it, Daniel. I know it's gonna be amazing. And I look forward when you visit Michigan, we'll show you the museum, okay?
I'm very excited, and I'm so happy I met you. And that was like one of the best parts of the summit is me meeting all these amazing speakers like Liam. I would have never had this opportunity, and she's so special because she has so much knowledge and stuff, and she's opening my eyes to all these things too. Because, as I said, when I joined these mystery schools, they always reference the ancient like Chaldean magicians that were so amazing, and I honestly didn't know that they're here in America.
Oh, I know. That's you know what? That's
How
the
lucky
thing.
I have. Like,
When
you're
people
reading this
meet
book
us,
in the eight
we don't
months.
yeah, we didn't know you exist. We didn't know that, and it's like, yeah, so it was very exciting when we met, and then we end up
I
having
was very
similar
excited. I couldn't
backgrounds.
wait to meet you. I was like, wow, like a real Chaldean. This is so exciting.
Right. And then I find out that your mother, was Jewish from Iraq. I mean, what a coincidence that is, that's what synchronized energy is all about. So thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you
So
very much. Yes. Everybody, sign up like he said, it's for free. You can just come check it out. There's a wealth of speakers, and we really look forward to it. Thank you everybody for watching, and have a wonderful day. Thank you, Danielle.
thank
Take
you.
care. Okay. Bye-bye.